this is Carrie Rhodes with CarrieStamps.com, your fun stampers journey coach. Today I'm going to be demonstrating for you a fun Halloween card featuring the Holiday Celebrations stamp set. And to make a fun background, I'm going to be featuring the Party Pop PanPastels. The PanPastels, all of our collections are currently on sale during the month of September for 20% off. So I'm going to show you a fun way to use them. And then I'm going to also couple that with the polka dot wall stencil. It's 8.5 by 11, so it's really big. You can make a whole sheet of polka dots. So that is what's on the video today. Let's get stamping. All right, here's the card that we're going to make. And you can see the fancy background there. It has some shimmer and layers and colors. And the stamp set that we're using is the Holiday Celebrations stamp set, and we're going to use this stamp right here, the Trick or Treat. So to get started, we're going to make the background. So we're going to use a piece of whipped cream cardstock. It is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And we're going to tape that down for when we use our stencil. Then we're going to stamp it with the Trick or Treat and the clear pigment ink. And I'm not really going to be able to see this when you stamp it, and that's okay. It is also okay if some of your stamping overlaps what you've already stamped. That's kind of adds to the charm of what we're doing, and if some of it's a little crooked, that's okay too. And I even want some of my side to be overlapped. So I'm going to just add a few more pieces that are overlapped there. We'll set that aside. Bring in our Party Pop PanPastels, and I'm going to use the orange color here, which is Citrus Cooler, I believe, and I'm going to use just this end of the sponge to grab up some of that, and then gently I will rub it on here. You don't want to use too much pressure because you don't want to smear that ink. It's still pretty wet, and you can see as I rub the pastel on there, it is sticking to the stamped image, to that clear pigment ink. And I'm just going to spread it around, and you can tell when I'm running out of chalk, it's getting to a really light orange, almost yellow color. I like that little bit of variation there. Also, when you're rubbing like this, it does kind of help to have your paper taped down. And you don't have to hold it the whole time. All right, so I'm just going to rub that in. There we have it. Now you can see the Trick or Treats everywhere. And then we're going to trade this in for our larger sponge and our stencil. So I'm going to use the polka dot stencil here. And I'm just trying to get that straight. I feel like my paper might be a tiny bit crooked. So bring in another piece of tape. This is just old washi tape that I don't really use. And I'm going to pick up my black licorice pastel with my sponge, and I'm going to start adding polka dots to my already sponged background. So you can see it's making black polka dots, but it's also still collecting on those stamped images underneath. So it's giving me this really unique layered in colors and layered with stamping, and the result is kind of like your own designer background that you've created. And then when we lift up the stencil, there's still going to be some areas of the orange. There we go. So that's pretty quick and easy. Then you want to take this and wipe it off with a baby wipe is fine. And if you put a piece of paper under it, you're going to get a really cool background when you wipe this off with a baby wipe. We'll set that aside, and then before we do our next step, you really want to tap off any excess chalk that might be on there. It will collect under the edge of that stencil. So I just like to really tap it off, flick it off, and then I'm going to remove this piece right here. And the next step, we're going to bring in our gold splash. And I have a box here that I like to work with. So I'm going to lay my paper in there. I'm going to take my gold splash shake it up because all the shimmer collects in the bottom. So that's always the first step, is the shaking. And then we're going to give this about 3 splashes of the gold. And that's going to give it a really cool shimmer of gold. Move that aside. And then if you like to set your pan pastels to make sure none rubs off later, you can blast that with a little bit of hairspray, and that'll help seal it too. I kind of got it concentrated hairspray in the middle there. But you see how it's all curled up? We're just going to set that aside while we do the other parts of our card, and that's going to eventually lay flat. All right, so I have a piece of black licorice cardstock that is 2 and I think it's 2 3/8, so just a hair under 2.5. And I'm going to take it and rub it really good with my colorless blender, and that's going to reduce the static on my paper so I can go ahead and emboss my sentiment. I'm using the same image, Trick or Treat, and I cut my square so it's just the right size here. There it is. And I'm going to emboss that with clear embossing powder. So clear ink, clear powder on black. Shake that powder on there. It's our clear embossing powder. I kind of rubbed my R, so I'm going to add a little bit more on there. And then also tap it off. Now you can see that the colorless blender really shows up on that black licorice cardstock. And I didn't care that I kind of got a thick layer of it because I'm going to be adding something over the top, so that's all right with me. All right, so now we'll heat that up with our heat tool. We're going to bring the pan pastels back in. I'm going to flip my sponge over so I have a empty side there, and I'm going to get some of the white pan pastel and just rub it over there, and it makes my paper a little gray. And then I'm just going to really burnish that in, but you can see that clear embossing powder is really black now, and the other areas are gray as that white powder is blending in there. I love the color it gives my little ghost. All right, so there we have that. You can also set that with some hairspray if you like. Oh, try to do it on camera this time. So it gets dark for a minute and then it dries up really quick. All right, so we're done with those two. And then we're going to bring in the layers of our card. So one thing I like to point out is that I like to cut the middle out of my layer. So when I stick this on, which you can see is flat now, so we know it's dry, I don't want to waste this paper in the middle. So I take my Journey rectangles and the second from the largest cutting rectangle I use to cut out the middle of this 4" by 5 1/4" inch layer. And then I've got this extra piece to use for something else, and I'll show you what I'm going to use it for later. So when we stick this on now, you just have to remember no adhesive in the middle, because then you'll stick it to your work surface instead of getting the nice result that you want. All right, so I'm going to use the Journey craft glue, and mine must have a little dried bit in it, so it's being slow. Of course, that would happen when you're making a video, right? All right, so we've got a little bit on the edge there, and then I'm going to have just a 1/8 inch border all the way around. Just a little bit to pop that off of my black card base. All right, then I'm going to add some cool things to this. I've got some of our black sticker, or like border. The name of it's on your screen since I can't remember it. And then I'm going to stick that down towards the bottom here. There we go. I kind of like to use my grid paper to make sure I get it straight. And I'm a little uphill, so I'm going to reposition that a little bit if I can. All right, then we can snip the ends off here. Very good. All right, then I have a square here of the citrus cooler, and then a little mat, again just an 1/8 of an inch border around that, and I'm going to go ahead and stick that down. There's my glue there, and a little bit will do ya, and it's going to go a little bit to the side here. All right, then I have some stars that are one of our bloom benefits, the wishing stars. They're a gold color. I need 5 stars for this card, so I'm just gonna use my Details Pro Shears and snip off 5. The cool thing about these is you can peel off the backing and stick them down. Well, really the cool thing is that you can get these stars for free because they're a bloom benefit. So if you spend $50, this could be one of the things you pick for free. So I'm going to lay that on my card, and then I'm going to come back to my trick or treat here, and I have a little mat for that piece as well. This is a pineapple smoothie because I liked how there was a little bit of the kind of the yellowish color in my background, and I thought the pineapple smoothie matched that really well. So we're going to mount this with some Journey foam squares, and I have the small size here, so we'll just use those, one in each corner. Peel off the backs. Oh, the backs have a mind of their own. You think you get them in the trash, you find them everywhere. All right, so this one's going to go a little bit more straight to our card, but have that neat offset background there. All right, so we're getting near the end, but I have another little element I wanted to add, and so I'm going to bring in a piece of black licorice cardstock. This is 1 3/4 by 3 1/2, and I'm going to cover this with our black licorice sparkle tape, and it takes about 3 strips to cover it. And the reason why I'm using black is if I get a little gap and don't get this perfectly straight, then the color underneath is the same color as my tape, so it's not a big deal. All right, so 3 pieces there, and then from the back I'm just going to burnish this a little bit so I know that tape is just really stuck down. And then I'm going to bring in my Journey Blooms Holiday die set and use this bat to die cut myself a sparkly black bat. Here's my bat. Look how cool. All right, so we'll set that bat aside. We're done with that. And I am going to save this piece. We're going to use it again. I don't like to waste my black sparkle tape, so we'll go ahead and stick this on the card first and use the foam squares to do that. And he's going to go up here. So we've got a lot of shimmer and sparkle going on there. So I liked, like I said, to use my leftovers here. So I'm going to bring in my handheld star punch and punch out about 3 stars and then shake those out. Now, I liked that, you know, the sparkle tape is adhesive on the back, but you can't really punch out tape. So having it on the back of this cardstock gives me the opportunity to punch out that sparkle tape and stick it down where I like it. So now I've got some little baby sparkly stars that I just stuck on with my Journey craft glue. All right, so then, you know, save this and use it to cut out some more. You'll want some sparkly stars or hearts or whatever later. Okay, the next thing we have is our black licorice card base. And I like my cards to be tall and open at the bottom, so that's what I've done here. I am going to go ahead and use some Journey foam squares to pop this up as well. I just am a big fan of lots of dimension on my cards, so therefore, if you haven't noticed, I use a lot of foam squares. I would like to have the larger size right here, but I just don't have them. They were on low inventory for a while, so I stocked up on the little ones. So that's going to go right here, and now we have our base of black. Awesome. And the only problem with having a black card is you have to figure out some special way to write on the inside. Well, I like to take that piece that I cut out from the center of my base and make that the inside of my card. You know, sometimes you don't have a ton of stuff to say, especially on a Halloween card. So now look, you've got a little bit smaller spot to write your sentiment. And then you can bring in this and add a few more stars maybe to that. There's the third one. And then it'll dress it up just a little bit and have something fun on the inside. And our glue does dry clear, so if you get a little bit of that where it oozes out because the stars are so tiny, don't worry, it'll dry clear. And there you have the card. You could add some Journey glaze to the top of your ghost like I've done on the original sample. Isn't that cute? All right, so all we did was stamp with clear embossing powder, rub the pan pastel to stick to that stamped image. Then we put our stencil over the top with a different color, added our polka dots, and then gave it a dusting of sparkle with our gold splash. Isn't that fun? Thanks for watching, guys. If you want any of the products that you have seen me use here today, you can find them at my online store, which is www.funstampersjourney.com/carrystamps. And remember that we have a big sale going on right now, the media mix sale, where the pan pastels are 20% off, as well as several other mixed media type supplies, like the stencil I used today, these polka dots, that's also on sale. All of our stencils are on sale. All of our pan pastels are on sale. So it's a good time to break in and try these out and think and see all the fun ways that you can use them in your projects. I have a few more videos with pan pastels you should check out too, and just see how much fun they are, and they'd be a great addition to your paper crafting. So happy stamping, and I will be sharing more with you soon. Bye-bye.